A holographic interface shimmered in the sterile air of the private suite, its blue light casting stark shadows across Ally's face. Her reflection was a ghost on the polished obsidian desk, an echo of the woman she used to be. Confirm migration protocol for asset Allison Shaw, knee stone. A synthesized voice prompted, devoid of all warmth. All linked biometrics, financial records, and social identifiers will be permanently terminated. This action is irreversible. State your confirmation. Ally's throat was tight, a desert of unshed tears. She took a steadying breath, her fingers tracing the cool glass of the tabletop. I confirm. The words hung in the silence. A final, damning sentence on a life she had once cherished. It was a life she never thought she'd have. Before Logan, love was a fairy tale told to other girls, a hollow promise she'd long since stopped believing in. Then he had appeared, a force of nature in a bespoke suit, with a smile that could disarm nations and a gaze that saw straight through the walls she had so carefully built. He pursued her for 3 relentless years. A phantom warmth spread through her chest as memories, sharp and bittersweet, ambushed her. Flashbacks played behind her eyes like a vintage film reel. Logan, on one knee in the middle of a crowded Times Square, the digital billboards all screaming "Marry Me." Allison Stone, her laughing, shaking her head, and pulling him away. Logan, chartering a private yacht just to sail under a sky filled with fireworks that spelled out her name. Logan, orchestrating a flash mob of symphony musicians in a quiet park where she ate her lunch. The soaring notes of their song were public declaration. He had proposed 52 times. Once for every week of the final year he courted her, each attempt more breathtakingly lavish than the last. She'd said no 51 times, terrified of the sheer magnitude of his world, of his unwavering certainty. But on the 52nd proposal, standing on a cliffside in Santorini as the sun bled into the Aegean Sea, he hadn't offered a spectacle. He'd simply held her hands, his own trembling slightly, and whispered, "I just want to be your home. Ally, please come home." And she had finally, tearfully, said yes. The memory shifted, crystallizing into the day of their wedding. She stood before him in a gown that shimmered like captured starlight, the weight of a new life settling on her shoulders. She remembered meeting his intense, adoring eyes and speaking her vow, not the one written for her, but one forged from her own deep-seated fears. "I will never betray you," she'd said, her voice clear and solemn in the hushed cathedral. "Through life, death, or poverty, my loyalty is yours. But remember one thing, Logan, I will not accept betrayal." He had smiled, a dazzling, confident smile that promised forever. Instead of a ring for the ceremony's end, he produced a delicate platinum chain. At its center was a single, an identifiable gemstone that seemed to drink in the light, shifting from deep violet to a warm, soft gray with every movement. A love stone, he'd called it, a rare meteorite fragment he'd had custom cut. As he fastened it around her neck, he'd promised to cherish her for eternity. The world had hailed them as the perfect couple, the billionaire CEO and the quiet librarian. A modern-day fairy tale. The warmth of the memory vanished as quickly as it came, leaving behind an arctic chill that seeped into her bones. Ally's hand reflexively went to her throat. The love stone was still there, now feeling as cold and heavy as a shackle. Her expression in the desk's reflection was hollow, the light in her eyes long since extinguished. The migration was the only way to sever the chain. Later that evening, the penthouse apartment was a cavern of opulent silence. It was their anniversary. He was 3 hours late. The door finally slid open and Logan entered, loosening his tie. He was as handsome as ever, his dark hair slightly disheveled, but a faint, unfamiliar scent clung to his suit of sweet, floral perfume that was not hers. "Ally, sweetheart, I'm so sorry," he began, his voice a practice bomb of regret. He moved to embrace her, but she remained still, a marble statue in their cavernous living room. The merger is a beast. I completely lost track of time. He held out a velvet box from a famed jeweler. Happy anniversary. I hope this makes up for it. She didn't look at the box. His lies were so easy now, so polished. She knew exactly where he'd been, who he'd been with. The knowledge was a shard of ice in her heart. I have something for you, too, she said, her voice unnervingly calm. She retrieved a simple, elegantly wrapped gift box from the mantelpiece. It was small, unassuming. He took it, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. You shouldn't have, he murmured, starting to unwrap it. Don't, she said, her voice sharp enough to make him pause. Don't open it yet. Wait half a month, 15 days. Open it then. He looked at her, confused but amused, as if this were a charming little game. All right, a mystery. I like it. A lie met his gaze, and for a fleeting moment, she let the mask slip, allowing a sliver of her profound pain to surface in her eyes. Logan, she said softly, I hope you really will feel surprised when the time comes. He missed it. Of course, he missed it. He just saw his beautiful, accommodating wife. He smiled, his guilt seemingly appeased by the exchange of gifts. I'll make it up to you, I promise, this weekend. We'll go to that theme park you love. Just the two of us. We'll ride the Ferris wheel at sunset. Eat cotton candy until we're sick. Like our first date. It was the perfect, hollow gesture, an attempt to plaster over a foundational crack with a photograph of a happy memory. A slow, sad smile touched Ally's lips. It didn't reach her eyes. This was it. The final act. One last weekend of playing the part of Mrs. Allison Shaw before she ceased to exist. She would accompany him, a somber grief concealed behind a placid mask. She would let him believe he was mending their bond, even as she was meticulously counting down the final seconds until she vanished from his life forever. I'd like that. She lied. The saccharine melody of the carousel organ was a nauseating counterpoint to the acid churning in Ally's stomach. Logan's arm was a dead weight around her shoulders, his fingers tracing patterns on her arm in a pantomime of affection she once cherished. She forced a smile as their painted horse rose and fell, the park's kaleidoscope of lights blurring into meaningless streaks of color. For everyone else, this was a fantasy. For Ally, it was a meticulously staged lie. Happy, darling, Logan murmured into her hair, his voice the same rich timbre that had once made her heart ache with love. Now, it was just a sound, a frequency she was learning to filter out. Ecstatic, she replied, her voice a hollow echo of the joy she was supposed to feel. He had rented the entire theme park for the day, a grand gesture for their anniversary. But the grandeur felt suffocating. A gilded cage built of his mounting secrets. As they stepped off the ride, a commotion near the churro stand caught their attention. A young woman with immaculate makeup and a ring light held aloft was talking animatedly into her phone, live streaming 2000s. Her voice, sharp and self-assured, cut through the park's ambient cheer. You guys are asking who did this for me. She laughed, gesturing expansively. My boyfriend is just the sweetest. He knows how much I love this place, so he bought it out for the whole day, just for me. A little pre-birthday surprise. Ally froze. Logan's hand tightened on her arm. It was such a specific, ostentatious gesture. A cold dread, slate and heavy, began to pool in her gut. She recognized the influencer Riley, a rising social media star whose posts had been appearing with suspicious frequency on Logan's social feeds. Comments flooded the influencer's screen, visible even from a distance. A follower typed, "Oh my God, is your mystery man Mr. Shaw? I heard he did something huge for his wife's anniversary today." Riley's smile tightened for a fraction of a second before she waved a dismissive, perfectly manicured hand. "Oh, please, don't compare my amazing man to some stuffy CEO. My boyfriend's love is passionate, spontaneous. Not some corporate obligation." The casual, cruel dismissal was like a physical blow. They weren't comparing to men. They were comparing his love for two women, and the lie was the corporate obligation. The air hitched in her throat, and a sound half-gasp, half-sob escaped her lips before she could stifle it. Logan's head snapped toward her, his brow furrowed with a perfect imitation of concern. "A lie. Are you all right? You look pale." The irony was a blade twisting in her chest. He stood here, the architect of her agony, pretending to be her comfort. She swallowed, pushing the tears back down with a force that made her jaw ache. "I'm fine," she said, her voice tight. I was just thinking about that TV show I was watching, the one where the husband seemed so devoted that he was living a completely different life behind his wife's back. It's silly how a man's heart can change so completely, isn't it?" She watched his face, searching for a flicker of guilt. A crack in the facade. There was nothing, only a mild, condescending confusion. "You watch too much television, darling." His phone buzzed then. A frantic, insistent vibration. He glanced at the screen, and the mask of the doting husband slipped. "Damn it, an urgent matter at the office. I'm so sorry. A lie. I have to go. The car will wait for you." He kissed her cheek a dry, perfunctory press of lips and strode away, his pace quickening with an energy he hadn't shown all day. The lie was so blatant, so lazy. It was a fresh insult, an urgent matter. Her gaze followed him, not toward the park exit, but toward a service gate tucked behind the haunted mansion. Without thinking, she began to follow, her heels sinking into the soft asphalt as she stayed in the shadows. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of dread and certainty. She rounded the corner of a large generator unit and saw them. Logan had Riley pinned against the wall, not in anger, but in a desperate, hungry embrace. His hands were tangled in her hair, his mouth on hers, the carefully constructed image of Mr. Shaw, the devoted husband, shattering into a million irreparable pieces. The world narrowed to that single, searing image. "You just have to be patient," he was murmuring to Riley, his voice thick with a passion a lie hadn't heard in years. "Just a little longer." A lie stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to choke back a fresh wave of nausea. A park employee, an older woman sweeping nearby, gave her a look of profound pity. "Men are trash, honey," the woman said softly. "You learn to put up with it, or you learn to leave." A lie looked from the woman's tired, resigned face to the scene of her husband's ultimate betrayal. A fire ignited in her chest, burning away the tears, the shock, the heartbreak. What was left was cold, hard, and sharp. "No," a lie whispered, her voice trembling with a sudden, terrible clarity. "I will never forgive him." That night, the chill in her bones had not subsided. It had solidified into a diamond-hard resolve. She stood at the back of a lavish auction house, a ghost in a black dress, watching Logan across the room. He was no longer hiding. Riley was on his arm, preening under the warm lights as he bid on a gaudy, diamond-encrusted necklace for her. He won it with a final, arrogant flick of his paddle, placing it around Riley's neck himself as the room offered a smattering of polite, knowing applause. He was making a statement. He was choosing his future, and she was his past. A lie waited. She watched him parade his new life, his blatant disrespect a final confirmation. Then, when the final lot of the evening was announced as slot for unscheduled, high-value items, she moved. She walked to the podium, her step steady, and handed the auctioneer a small, velvet box. "The next item," the auctioneer announced, his voice booming through the hushed hall, is the love stone. A flawless, 20-carat blue diamond. A truly unique piece. A collective gasp went through the room. The stone was legendary in their circle, Logan's first major gift to her. A symbol of his undying love. Their private fairytale made public. Logan's head shot up. His eyes found hers across the crowded room. His face a mask of disbelief and confusion. He started toward her, pushing past guests, his expression darkening with every step. But he was too late. The bidding had already begun, frantic and fast. The gavel fell with a sharp crack that echoed the sound of her marriage breaking. Sold. He finally reached her as the transaction was being finalized, his voice a low, furious hiss. "Allison, what the hell are you doing? That was my gift to you. It was a symbol of everything we are." Eli turned to face him, her expression as placid and unreadable as a frozen lake. She met his bewildered, wounded gaze without flinching. "Was it?" she asked, her voice quiet, yet carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken goodbyes. "I thought it was just a stone, and I find I no longer have any use for it." The antiseptic scent of the hospital was a constant, sterile reminder of the collapse. Eli stared at the ceiling, tracing the faint water stain in the corner tile, her world reduced to the slow, rhythmic drip of the full bag and the quiet, insistent beep of the heart monitor. The doctors had called it a vasovagal syncope, a fainting spell brought on by extreme emotional distress. A sterile, clinical name for a shattered heart. The door swung open, not with the gentle push of a nurse, but with the hurried, guilty energy of a man on the brink. Logan Shaw stood there, his tailored suit rumpled, his face a mask of flustered concern. But he was not alone. Clinging to his arm was Riley, her blooming pregnancy proudly displayed in a form-fitting cashmere dress. She radiated a smug confidence that sucked the remaining oxygen from the room. "Allison," Logan began, his voice strained. "Riley wanted to see how you were." Riley's smile was a weapon. "We were so worried." She stepped forward, her hand never leaving Logan's arm, the other stroking her stomach. "Especially me. The doctor said stress isn't good for the baby." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. "I'm a month along, you know." Logan has been so wonderfully attentive. Ali's gaze remained fixed on the ceiling tile. She didn't need to look at them. She could feel Riley's victory, could smell the cawing sweetness of her perfume mixing with the hospital's bleach. "He bought me a villa by the coast," Riley continued, her voice a saccharine pear aimed directly at Ali's heart. "And $100 million. Just a little nest egg for our child. He said it was to celebrate the fruit of our love." She let out a soft, theatrical laugh. "Oh, and did you see the fireworks over the city last Tuesday?" That was Logan, announcing our joy to the world. He's just so wonderfully romantic. The heart monitor beside Ali's bed remained steady, its rhythmic beep a testament to the eerie calm that had descended upon her. The initial storm of grief had passed, leaving behind a frozen, desolate landscape. Riley, emboldened by the silence, leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "He's a beast in bed. You know. Passionate. The night he proposed this at our new family, he covered the entire floor of his penthouse suite in gardenias. My favorite." She shot a venomous glance at Eli. "Has he ever gotten that creative with you, sweetheart?" "I suppose not." She patted her stomach again, a gesture of pure ownership. "This baby, our baby, will be the next sure successor. A real heir to the empire." That was it. The final, perfectly sharpened shard of glass. It wasn't just the affair, the money, or the public humiliation. It was the erasure, the complete and utter nullification of her existence, of their shared past, of any imagined future. Something inside Eli shifted. The ice in her veins hardened into steel. The last flicker of love, of hope, was extinguished, and in its place, a cold, Clear resolve ignited. She slowly turned her head, her eyes meeting Riley's for the first time. There was no pain in her expression, no anger, just a profound, unsettling emptiness that made even Riley take a half step back. A week later, the master bedroom of the Shaw mansion was a study in systematic dismantling. While Logan was at a critical board meeting, Eli moved with the quiet efficiency of a ghost. She folded her clothes into 2 large suitcases, her movements precise and unhurried. She stripped the bed of the linens he'd bought. She walked through the house, collecting every trace of herself: the photo on the mantelpiece, the book on the knitstand, the half-used bottle of perfume in the bathroom. She left behind every gift he had ever given her, lining up the diamond necklaces and designer bags on the bed like offerings to a dead marriage. She was not a woman fleeing. She was an archivist closing a collection. Logan returned that evening, holding a small, grease-stained paper bag. "I brought those buns from the little shop on East Side," he said, his voice attempting a lightness it couldn't carry. "Remember, from our first date?" He was trying to rewind time, to pretend the hospital, Riley, and the baby had never happened. Before Eli could respond, the front door burst open. Riley stood on the threshold, her face tear-streaked and frantic. "Logan, I couldn't reach you. I missed you. The baby missed you." Her eyes darted from Logan's shocked face to Eli's placid one, her feigned composure from the hospital completely gone, replaced by a raw, possessive panic. Logan's face paled. He rushed to Riley, his hands fluttering awkwardly around her. "Riley, what are you doing here? We talked about this. It's not a good time." He tried to steer her back outside, his voice a harsh whisper. "I'll come to the villa later, I promise. Just go home." He quickly shut the door, turning back to Eli with a sheen of sweat on his forehead. "An urgent matter with a new acquisition. I have to go deal with it." The lie was so clumsy, so insulting. It was almost laughable. He grabbed his keys from the bowl by the door, not even looking at the packed suitcases standing sentinel in the foyer. As his hand touched the doorknob, Eli spoke, her voice devoid of heat, as cool and final as a eulogy. "You'll be alone for the rest of your life." Logan froze, turning back to her. Her eyes were like polished stone. "No one will ever find me again." It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact, a prophecy. Without another word, she picked up a single suitcase, leaving the rest of her past behind. She walked past him, opened the front door, and stepped out. The late afternoon sun was blinding, swallowing her form as she walked down the stone path and out of his life, leaving Logan Shaw alone in the cavernous silence of a house that was no longer a home. The heavy oak door of the Shaw mansion swung inward, and the silence that met Logan was the first blow. It wasn't quiet, it was a void, a dead space where the echoes of life used to be. There was no scent of the jasmine tea Eli brewed in the afternoons, no soft melody from the piano she played in the West Wing. The air was cold, sterile, as if the soul of the house had been surgically removed. "Eli," he called out, his voice sounding unnaturally loud. He dropped his briefcase, the thud swallowed by the oppressive hush. A knot of dread, cold and hard, began to form in his stomach. He walked through the ground floor, his footsteps echoing on the marble. "Allison," he took the stairs 2 at a time, heading for their bedroom. The door was ajar. Inside, the first clear sign of disaster struck him. Her side of the walk-in closet was bare. Hangers, like skeletal fingers, dangled empty. Her jewelry box lay open on the dresser. The diamond necklace he bought her for their anniversary was gone, as was the antique sapphire ring from his mother. But the simple silver locket from her own grandmother, the one she never took off, was also missing. She hadn't just taken his gifts, she had taken her life back. Panic clawed its way up his throat. He raced through the house, a man possessed. In his study, the large silver frames on his desk were hollow, her glass staring back at him, empty of their wedding photos. The living room mantelpiece, once a shrine to their travels and shared moments, was a barren desert of polished wood. Every photograph, every letter, every scrap of their existence together had been methodically erased. He stumbled out onto the back terrace, his breath coming in ragged gasps. And there, he saw the final, brutal punctuation to her departure. Their cherry tree, the one they'd planted on their first anniversary as a symbol of their growing love, was gone. In its place was a blackened, charred stump surrounded by a circle of ash. She hadn't just cut it down. She had burned it. A memory, sharp and agonizing, pierced through his shock. Ali's voice, soft but laced with an unbreakable resolve, from a conversation long ago. "The day you betray me, Logan, will be the day I erase myself from your life. It will be as if I never existed." He had laughed then, charmed by her dramatic flair. He saw now it hadn't been a threat. It had been a promise. The realization brought him to his knees. A raw, guttural scream tore from his lungs, a sound of pure animal despair. "Allison." His plea was answered only by the rustling leaves of the other, untouched trees. The hollow emptiness of the mansion was now the hollow emptiness of his world. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, appeared at the doorway, her face a mask of professional neutrality. "Mr. Shaw, where is she?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "Mrs. Shaw left this morning, sir," she stated, a tone devoid of pity. "With one suitcase. She asked that we not disturb you." Deliberate, final, the words hammered into him. The weight of his arrogance, his infidelity, his monumental stupidity, crashed down on him with the force of a physical blow. He had thought he could have everything: the perfect wife and the thrilling mistress. He had treated Ali's love as a given, a permanent fixture in his life he could neglect without consequence. Now he understood, he wasn't just without a wife. He was utterly, irrevocably alone. The next 48 hours were a blur of frantic, desperate energy. He called every friend she had, every distant relative he could remember, his voice growing more frayed with each conversation. He lashed out at his own circle, his obsession bordering on madness. "Just find another one, Logan," his friend Mark had said over the phone, a careless attempt at consolation. "A younger, hotter model. You can have anyone." Logan smashed the phone against the wall. He gripped the receiver of his landline, his knuckles white, and dialed Mark back. "Listen to me," he snarled, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "You will never speak of her that way again. Allison is my life. Do you understand me? She is my life. And I will tear down anyone who suggests she is replaceable." He slammed the phone down, his chest heaving. He was a king who had willingly abdicated his throne, now screaming at the peasants from the gutter. His world was already imploding, but he had no idea the shockwave was about to hit. It came not from a lawyer or a private investigator, but from the glowing screen of his tablet. Notifications were flooding in, all directing him to a live stream. He tapped the link, and Riley's tear-streaked face filled the screen. She was in her apartment, dressed in a soft, white sweater, the lighting carefully arranged to make her look like a Madonna. "And he promised me," she sobbed to an audience of thousands. "He said his marriage was a sham, just for business. He said he loved me." She paused, placing a protective hand over her stomach. "He told me he wanted this baby, our baby." The public betrayal was a masterful stroke of performance art. Logan felt a cold fury replace his despair. He drove to her apartment, ignoring the speed limits, his mind a maelstrom of rage. He burst through her door to find her still lit, the camera propped up on a stack of books. "Turn it off," he commanded. Riley's eyes widened, a flicker of fear mixed with triumph. "Logan, you can't be here," I said, Turn it off. He strode forward and swiped the phone off its perch. The live stream ended. But the damage was done. What the hell do you think you're doing? What I'm doing, she shot back, her victim act evaporating. You abandoned me. You used me, and now you want to throw me away. His laugh was a harsh, ugly sound. Use you, Riley. You were a tool, a distraction. You were never going to be Mrs. Shaw. You were never going to be anything. He looked down at her stomach with undisguised contempt. And as for that, get rid of it. I'll pay for everything. Just make it go away. He turned to leave, believing he had ended it, that he had fatally underestimated the wrath of a woman he had not only used, but publicly branded as worthless. He had exposed his true cruelty, and now, so would she. Riley calmly picked up her phone, her expression now one of icy resolve. She didn't restart the stream, she made a call. Yes, I'd like to report a crime, she said, her voice clear and steady as Logan paused at the door, turning back slowly. The CEO of Shaw Industries, Logan Shaw. I have evidence of systemic tax evasion and embezzlement. Digital ledgers, offshore account numbers, everything. I'm sending it now. The final act of his ruin was swift and merciless. The next morning, his assistant, David, entered his office, his face ashen. He placed a tablet on the desk without a word. The headline screamed in bold letters. Shaw Industries raided into $1 billion tax fraud scandal. The federal authorities have frozen all company and personal assets, sir, David said, his voice a monotone of doom. The preliminary fine is estimated at $2 billion. The board has invoked the morality clause in your contract. You're out. Logan stared blankly at the screen, his world dissolving into meaningless pixels. David wasn't finished. Mark and the others, they leveraged their own companies against yours to fund the last merger. When our stock became worthless this morning, they were wiped out. They're all facing bankruptcy. Logan finally looked up from the tablet, his eyes vacant. He had not only destroyed himself, but had dragged down everyone tethered to him. He was a black hole, and his collapse had consumed everything. He was left a broken man in a glass tower he no longer owned, stripped of his fortune, his reputation, his friends, and the only love that had ever been real, allies. Vengeance was complete. She had not fired a single shot. She had simply walked away, knowing the corrupt empire he had built on a foundation of lies would inevitably crumble to dust without her. Its one true pillar to hold it up.